My name is Kaylie Ostin, and this is my final capstone project for grade 12. I'm here today with my mentor, Jenny Dries. She is a therapist and owner of Validity Counseling. We're going to be doing a little bit of a dialogue for this project, but she is behind the camera. And my project is on how my personal mental health journey has prepared me for my future, or how the skills I have learned throughout my journey have set me up for a better future. And I could have done this project on many things. Like, I know I want to go into forensic psychology after high school, after a gap year, to travel. I know my dreams. I know what schools I want to go to, or kind of the options I have, and I could have made that project on those things, but I wanted to do something a bit more personal and more important to me, because high school was a mental health journey for me, and I think this is a good way to wrap up high school as I come towards graduation. So first, I want to talk a little bit about the difference between mental health and mental illness, because they're often used interchangeably, and they're not the same thing. So everyone has mental health, and everyone needs to take care of their mental health to make sure that they're doing well, to be the best version, the happiest versions of themselves. And then mental illness, not everyone struggles with, and that's where you get disorders like BPD, severe depression, schizophrenia, eating disorders. Those are all examples of mental illnesses. And those mental illness can have many causes. So it can be a trauma response. It quite often is. And you can also have a genetic predisposition towards certain struggles. So yeah. So mental health during high school, I think that's, oh god, okay. So mental health is extremely important during and leaving high school. In high school, there's a lot of pressure to do well academically by both your teachers, parents. There's a lot of pressure to fit in and be cool enough, pretty enough, good looking enough, cool enough, I don't know, the best volleyball player on the team. There's so much pressure in high school, and you don't really know who you are yet, and you're still trying to figure it out. Your brain's still developing, and you can make bad choices, and yeah. And then leaving high school is a really big change and shift for most teens, because they're becoming adults, and there's an even higher academic demand, and they're having to make all these big decisions and learn how to live on their own and be independent. So that's very hard on their mental health as well. They might move away for school and be away from their family. So yeah, but in high school, as of 2019, 1 in 6 high school students had made a suicide plan in the past year. And that's very sad, and I actually believe it, because I think a big piece of children who actually struggle with mental illness or substance abuse addiction is their parents' involvement, because what anyone really wants is to be loved and appreciated and cared for. And if parents aren't involved, I know so many children with bad home lives, and that damage stays with you forever and can present itself in so many different ways. And I think that's really sad. And I think more teens need people, safe people, to talk to. And not just assume that their parents can deal with everything, because they can't always, and they don't always know how. They may even have their own struggles themselves. So, but struggles with mental health can often go hand in hand with drug use, unsafe sex, violence, and self-harm, for some examples. And so it's a very serious matter. And many lives are lost every year to mental illness. So my story. So I don't know, it's definitely gonna be hard for me to talk about this. I don't really know what I'm gonna say and what I'm not going to yet, but oh gosh, I don't even know where to start.
So when do you think it started?
Well, I think I always had a genetic predisposition to struggling with something. Because
you were born intense.
Yeah. Both my parents struggled with addiction, and my mom really struggled with BPD, depression, suicidal ideation, and it completely changed her as a person, and I think when both your parents struggle with those things, you might have a little more tendency, just with your, genetic predisposition to certain mental illnesses. And my mom actually committed suicide when I was 9, so that was very traumatic as a child, and so yeah, that was obviously gonna manifest in some way. And
so for the longest time, how did you cope?
By being perfect. I had to be perfect at everything. I had to be perfect at school, and perfect at gymnastics, the perfect employee, the perfect daughter. I just had to be perfect, and I put all my energy into that, and put on a smile, and just tried to distract myself, and
so
I guess prove to the world that I was good enough. Yeah.
So when did that coping strategy stop working for you?
I don't think it ever did. Well,
But eventually being perfect wasn't enough.
I couldn't be perfect enough, and that's the thing. There was no finish line. And so yeah, that's when things got bad, and I was diagnosed with anorexia maybe 3 years ago now. Formally diagnosed. Food was another thing in my life that I tried to control and try to be perfect at. Of course, I know now you can't eat perfectly. There's no such thing. And Yeah, so I spent a month in the hospital in Prince George, and then 3 months at the Looking Glass Residential Treatment Center in Vancouver. That was a really bad time in my life. I was very depressed, and it consumed my whole life. I cared about nothing else. I wanted to be thin more than I wanted to accomplish my dreams, like graduating and traveling. And quite honestly, I wanted to be thin more than I wanted to live, because I was slowly killing myself, and I didn't care.
Well, and it was a vicious cycle, because the more you starved yourself, the more anxious you became, because you were starving your brain.
Mm-hmm.
And so it became this big loop for you.
Yeah, it was very painful every day, from the moment I woke up to the moment I fell asleep. It was constant torture in my head.
And you worked very hard.
I did. I lost everything when I was that sick. I got pulled out of school for 2 years. I lost gymnastics. I got pulled from competing. I lost my job as a coach. I really hurt my family in the process, because it was so scary for them to watch me become less and less of myself and more of a shell of a person. And I never thought I'd get out of it, because in those moments, the only thing that felt like it could fix everything was losing a couple more pounds, and I never thought my brain would work any other way. So when I went to treatment, I learned a lot. I got to be surrounded by other residents there who I got to hear their stories, and that was really inspirational for me. And to see them get better really helped me to want to, because I knew they felt just as hopeless and stuck as I did. So it was a really good environment for each other. And it was also, I would never choose to go back to that time in my life, or back to treatment. It was very painful. But I learned a lot, and I made a progress journal where I wrote more about some of my interviews with my mentor and some of the research I did for this project. But tomorrow I'm also going to bring in this just to kind of have a flip through with Miss Barnett, because this is my personal progress journal. This is my progress journal, because this is all my papers from treatment, and there's in the hospital, and there are so many handouts in there, and self-reflections and goals I wrote so long ago, and they're really cool to look back on. And I attended lots of groups like DBT, CBT. I learned a lot about those, and I learned a lot about emotion regulation, communication styles, self compassion, things like that. And I just know that going forward, when going out into the world, that all those things are gonna help me. Yeah. So why I made a change? Because it didn't happen. I didn't come home from treatment and I was fixed. I actually, for a few weeks, I did start relapsing, and quite honestly, I think why I got better was jealousy of the lives that all these other teenagers got to live, and all the fun things they got to do, like, you know, go to school dances and go out for ice cream with their friends, and you know, go to parties, you know. And when I came home from treatment, I reconnected with some old friends and started hanging out with them more and more, and I just saw how excited they were about life. You know, they didn't sit there crying for an hour before each meal. They, you know, went and got KFC because it's their favorite. Like, how cool is that? Like, I'm also kind of sick right now. I apologize. And I envied that energy they had, and how outgoing they were, and how excited they got about things, and their big personalities, and their fearlessness, like, and their confidence. And I didn't want to miss out on that anymore. I couldn't any longer because I spent all of my high school missing out. And I wanted my life back. And I knew I had big dreams. And, you know, me being out of school for that long for treatment did take a toll on my academics, which was very hard for me, but it got me a little bit behind. And I knew that I could not travel and be a forensic psychologist and have a family one day from a hospital bed. That's not how it works. And I've gained back so much. I can actually feel my emotions now, happy and sad. Because I used to be so numb. And on so much medication that I couldn't feel any emotions. My energy. I actually want to do things now. I want to go on hikes. I want to go, you know, swimming at the lake with my friends. So I thought that losing weight would make all my problems go away. And I thought I'd be a lot less insecure if I lost just a little bit more weight. It was always just a little bit more. It never is just a little bit more. And in all honesty, I feel just as self-conscious now as I did at my smallest. And that is still something that I have to work on. I think I still definitely struggle with food and those thoughts. They're quite often in my head. But I feel stronger than that voice now. And I know giving into it isn't worth it as much as my brain tells me it will be. I'm a completely different person now. I really am. And I don't know if I'm happy, but I'm happier, and I'm doing so much better. And just the difference in the light in my face, it's come back. And I've gained so much independence being my grade 12 year, and that's really exciting, and I'm so excited for my future. And yeah, I've gone, this journey in general made me and my family so much closer, and I know they see my progress a lot more than I do. But going forward into my future, I have learned so many valuable lessons, and gained so much resilience. I know now that was the hardest thing I ever had to do, and I did it. I got out of that darkest spot that I'd ever been in, and that was so powerful, because now I feel like I can do anything.